back with AM Live, and I'm Heather and Richard here, and we're with Phyllis Sinclair. Good to meet you, Phyllis.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Phyllis.
Good morning.
And you're here with Doctors Without Borders. Tell us more about this.
Okay, well, Doctors Without Borders is an organization that was formed in the 1970s by two French doctors, and their whole goal is to provide medical care in acute situations around the world, whatever it may be, whether it's a natural disaster, for example, an earthquake, a tsunami, or if it's a man-made disaster like an armed conflict.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
we'll
In
go
many
in.
cases, this has to be the most difficult to deal with because in reading the information, it looks like doctors and nurses, their lives are definitely more at risk in this type of situation than any other.
That's very true. Especially if you're going into an armed conflict area, then it's even more
Yes.
risky, and it can be very challenging to provide the security. But on the other hand, when the local people know you're coming in to provide health care, they do tend to respect that.
Rally around.
And they're happy we're there.
I've
Absolutely.
been involved with Rotary, I've heard some stories, but even the workers that go in to put in the drops on for polio to stop kids from getting polio, even they're subject, and there have been some in Pakistan that were murdered. There
Yes.
just seems to be a lack of understanding, or I guess they don't care, the people that are holding the guns don't care
Yeah,
sometimes.
exactly.
Unfortunately, you are right, and there have been instances also in Afghanistan where aid workers have been kidnapped and or murdered. It's unfortunate, and I think there are some extremists out there that take advantage of that kind of situation. But I have to say that, fortunately, for the most part, the local population is so thrilled to have us that they can tend to provide some
Absolutely.
even extra added security.
What led you guys to get involved? Because you work with your husband, right?
And my husband, he has been a heart surgeon for 30 years in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and he has since retired. And he always felt this very strong need to give back.
Yes.
He has these wonderful skills and all this training, and there are so many parts of the world where there are no doctors, no nurses, people receive absolutely no medical care. So he felt a very strong urge to do that. So in 2008, he became affiliated with Doctors Without Borders, and has gone on 13 missions since then, anywhere from a period of 6 weeks to 4 months, and providing surgery. I also wanted to do it, but I had to wait until our daughter was more independent, and the whole goal was for us to work together, and we have since achieved that.
Yeah.
And we've been
Wow,
on
that's
missions
so
together.
rewarding.
Now,
That's amazing.
your husband's gone on 13, and you've gone on multiple since your daughters got old enough.
Yes.
So, what places in the world have you gone to, and what kind of emergencies have you gone into, disasters and things like that?
Okay, well, there was an earthquake in Pakistan back in the mid-2000s. We went there. My husband has been to Nigeria, Sri Lanka. He's been to South Sudan 3 times. We were both in Libya during the conflict in 2011 before Gaddafi was murdered, shall we say?
Yeah.
Which is what happened. We've been to Jordan, taking care of the Syrian refugees. So we've been a lot of places, but I have to say that 80% of the programs of Doctors Without Borders are in Africa because that's where the greatest need is. There's just not enough infrastructure, money, trained professionals, supplies, things like that.
And
Wow.
you're here to promote
Yes,
a
this
webinar
book.
that's going to occur June 25th, is that correct?
That's right. Today, June 25th, it'll be 5 p.m. West Coast time. It'll be a live webcast from New York City. That's where the Doctors Without Borders office is. It will be a panel of 3 people, one of the people being my husband, Dr. Michael Sinclair. And they will be speaking specifically on South Sudan because the crisis there has worsened. If you can imagine, this country is a new country, only 2 years old. They had been involved in a civil war with Sudan for 25 years. They finally gained independence in 2012 and now are embroiled in their own civil war. So there's no infrastructure. There's no schools. There are no medical schools, no universities. There's no health care being provided. So it is a true emergency
And the
for the people living there.
the refugee camps that are created, Sounds like many of them are in squalor, and the people are just trying to survive as best they can when they're massed together.
That's exactly right.
So what's the objective of the webinar tonight?
The objective tonight is to raise awareness among the American public that there is such suffering happening, and also, to be absolutely honest, is they've got to raise some money.
Money, exactly, yes.
MSF, or Doctors Without Borders, relies solely on private donors. They are not affiliated with any religious or political organizations. Therefore, they really need to get the word out to the public and inspire people to donate whatever they can.
Yeah.
I mean, $1 will help.
Yeah, exactly. $1 in a foreign country like that?
Yeah,
could
it
do
can
a
buy
lot.
a lot. It can
Yeah.
buy a lot.
Yeah.
It can
And
buy.
people might ask, why is this coming to Ione? Well, there's an awareness around the whole world. There should be an awareness that things like this are going on. Whether it's Doctors Without Borders or Rotary, they're all symbiotic and they help each other. But the Sinclair family's got a long history in the city of Ione, so that's how we're getting it back to our location with your brother-in-law Dan and helping to promote the effort too.
And I see you have a book here.
Yeah, it just, my husband wrote a book. It's called No Regrets, No Apologies, and it does tell about his life here in Ione growing up.
Wow, cool.
So many people here might be interested in reading and see
See if they're in the book.
themselves in the book, perhaps.
Yeah.
And then he goes on. It's basically a memoir. So it describes his life. It's a two-part. It's about the one half of his life where he is a cardiac surgeon, and the other half of his life where he is a mountaineer. So,
So
A little
did your-
plug for
how-
the book.
How old's your daughter?
24.
So does she accompany you guys on these trips?
No, she doesn't. And it's you could take your family if you're going to be on a mission for about a year. They do have some people that stay for a whole year in some of these projects, and then of course you bring your family and they live with you. But since we only go for maybe sometimes 6 weeks, sometimes 4 months, it's not appropriate to bring your family along.
You
So
probably just hit the ground running the whole time you're there.
for sure.
Yeah.
You have been to the Sudan?
I have not been to the Sudan
But your
on this
husband's
particular
been there
mission.
a couple times?
3 times. He's
And-
been there, yes.
Does he express fear that sometimes the situations are that bad?
It can be. I know that the last time he just actually was there a few weeks ago, and in fact they did have some armed people break into their compound. Not necessarily to harm the workers, but to take things because
Yeah,
they
need
don't
things.
have anything. They were taking food. They were taking a product called Plumpy Nut, which is a very special product designed for malnutrition and for feeding clinics. But the people are so desperate that they broke in and were trying to steal Plumpy Nut. So from that respect, I suppose there's always a chance someone's breaking in, something bad could happen, but they
Desperate
didn't feel
times.
personally threatened.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess you weigh the risk and you weigh the benefits, and the benefits, I guess, far exceed any risks in your husband's case and the other professionals that go over there, because they must see that they do a lot of good.
I think that's true, and I think everybody who works for the organization feels that way. Otherwise, I don't think you could be there.
I mean, when you're so richly blessed and you realize that the majority of the world's not, and you have an opportunity to address that, I think it's just compelling that you'd want to do that.
It is.
you know.
It is.
So,
It's
yeah.
that's the reward in itself.
Is your husband just going to the Sudan? Because I noticed in reading, the people, the refugees, are going out to all of the neighboring countries too, just any place they can to get away from the violence and in danger.
That's so true. Doctors Without Borders is working specifically in South Sudan. They have actually had a hospital in a place called Lear for about 25 years, even before that country became independent. They had been providing medical care, and they had been the only people providing medical care there. So they would like to stay in that area. They feel that they're very focused there. They've made a lot of they've networked, and the locals know them, and it's just a better thing. Now, of course, the refugee camps, as you said, in the other surrounding areas also need a lot of support. No question about it.
How long will the webinar last this evening?
It will be 1 hour. It'll be 5 p.m. our time, and it'll be 1 hour.
And
it'll
they'll
be
be actually educating and soliciting for donations?
It'll be mainly an educational thing. It'll be a panel of 3 people. My husband being he'll present the surgical view of what he's seen there. There will be a medical doctor there, an infectious disease doctor who treats things like TB and with other communicable diseases. And then there'll be an administrative person called a head of mission who has been running the mission there for about a year. So it'll be very informational, I think.
If
So-
people can't get to Clark's Corner, is there a site they can go on for the webinar too?
Yes, of course. It's doctorswithoutborders.org. It's a wonderful website full of all kinds of information. If you go to that website and then click on events, and as you scroll down, it'll be in chronological order. It'll come up as June 25th.
I was curious, what, if you speak to your personal experience, what's the one thing that you've learned, if you could pick one thing as being a part of this?
Well, that's a really good question, because the two missions I have been on one was to Libya during the conflict, and the other was to Jordan. So going to the Middle East as an American has been a fascinating experience. We work very, very closely with the local people, and they are the same as us. That's what I have found out. No matter where you go in the world, they are like us.
I love that.
As a woman going there, it had to be a little bit different too, to the Mideast, I guess.
It was very different and very interesting, because I worked mainly with men. And so I was a little concerned about my role, because mainly I'm in a supervisory role when I travel with them. And I was a little concerned about that, but they completely welcomed me and respected me.
You, yeah.
And even in Libya, where the men I worked with never even had met a Western woman.
Wow.
They treated me with a lot of respect,
Wow,
and I had a
wow.
good relationship with them.
Do you have to wear some of their garb?
I did not have to wear it.
Really?
Would you have
Interesting.
if they had required it?
I would,
Yeah.
out of
yeah,
respect
out of
for them.
respect, uh-huh.
Women in our country even have to wear kimono.
We wear kimonos, yeah.
I love your kimono, by the way.
All right, well, Phyllis, thank you very much for being here. We'll talk about the webinar again one more
Okay.
time when we come back for TSP and after our break.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
Hi, Josh. I was just thinking about calling you.